All right, this is our hackathon number 4. This is the Super Peace People group. So we're going to be talking about vaping, and we were just talking even almost before we started the video about just how big of a problem vaping really is. I found some interesting points. So it said, this was just on November 14th, so this was this past week. It said that cases of vaping-related illness surpassed 2.1 thousand, and deaths are up to 42. This week there was specifically 2172 lung injuries, and last week there was 2,051. So that's like 121 more cases in just 1 week. So I think we have a good topic to talk about, just because there's such a big problem, and you know there's a lot of different ways we could go about it. I mean, there's arguments about, oh, it's only the THC, or there's the angle of the youth, or different things, but I think we have a good topic to go with anyways.
Right, I agree with that. I think from the things that I saw, while smoking tobacco kills more people, and we have a lot of research already saying how bad smoking is for you and tobacco use, and I think the problem with e-cigarettes is that we don't have all the information. There is more and more coming out all the time, but I think the shock factor, and in fact, the way I saw it in some articles was that they're treating this almost like a disaster situation. They have people in place, like when you have like a flu epidemic. They're treating it almost like that, like they treated Zika. They have like a centralized place where they're trying to gather information and track, and they're trying to get all. And I think the reason why there's so much focus on it is because it's marketed as a safer way of smoking, and that, you know, that's how it was brought out. It was brought out as a safe new alternative for conventional cigarettes. So people that are doing it feel like, I'm still getting my nicotine, but it's not harmful, which is completely wrong, as we're finding out. You know, all these lung injuries, and whether it's related to THC or the vitamin E or any of those other carcinogens that are in the vape or the vapors itself, are what's causing all the problems. And one of the other troubling thing is how most of them are targeting a younger generation, like a whole new generation of youth feel like that probably or may not have even tried smoking, because there is a stigma, there's a smell, there's, you know, all the yellowing of the teeth and hands, and all the commercials of anti-tobacco ads and things like that. Kids are brought up with that, but they feel like, okay, well, I can still have the cool factor, I can still get a nicotine or whatever, but it's safe. And I think that's the biggest problem with this issue, is that we didn't have all the information going out, and you know, children now have things designed for them with flavors, cartridges that are concealed from their parents, and so, you know, a lot of people have issues with it that may not have with conventional cigarettes. That's what's disturbing to me as a parent of teenagers.
And kind of looking at what the CDC kind of addresses is, it basically recommends that you do not use THC containing e-cigarettes or vaping products. It kind of goes over all of the dangers and like lung injuries that have been associated with it. Mm-hmm. And kind of like you were saying too, as more information's coming out, there's a lot more that's kind of indicating that they're not a safe alternative to cigarettes. Right. They're not safe at all. And especially with like working with children and like young adults, and kind of like you said, they're easy to conceal, and like you really can't smell it because the cigarette smell's not there. It's just the water vapor and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But that in and of itself has a lot of like chemicals and carcinogens that are causing all of these side effects that nobody really is aware of at this point. And kind of like as the studies are showing more and more information's coming out that they're really not a safe alternative.
Right. And I think that's the big problem too, is like we're finding out all this information that it's not good. And I think where we went wrong is advertising that is such a safer option than smoking. And so it's gotten this good rep so far, and all these kids are doing it, and now it's I think the biggest problem is how do we reverse it? How do we get that education out there? How do we go about it? Because I feel like I even have a friend who vapes, and I even told him about all this. I'm like, oh my goodness, look at this, and his attitude was more like, well, it's only the ones with THC, but they're saying you can't exclude the ones that don't have THC. There's still so many different things in it that are harmful to the body and that can be causing the respiratory issues. Maybe even if, the argument of that it's the vitamin E that
right,
that's
like
playing
that oily substance that is causing a lot of the problems with the lung injuries right now.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm just seeing, even just from a friend standpoint, just this naivety. Just they're taking what they want from it,
right.
And I worry that's, this is a younger kid too, I think that's just what they're taking from all of this, because that's another big problem is adolescents, their mind isn't developed, and so how can they make these decisions? And I think education would be a good point to start with the youth, or what can we do for the youth especially?
I think that's a perfect topic. I have teenagers. My daughter is in high school. She says that there's even certain bathrooms that she has to steer away from because there's kids in there that are vaping every time she's gone in there, and it's really disturbing. I was looking at something that said that you can even, along with the concealing and the flavors and all those things, is that you can buy extra strength cartridges that give you higher doses of nicotine, which is terrible because their impulse control isn't established as youth. There's higher nicotine, so they're getting way more addicted at a younger age. And what's sad is that these kids may or may not have even tried cigarettes because they grew up with all of that teaching from very young ages that all of this is so bad for you, and there's such a bad stigma. And so I just think it's so terrible that this age is the target market, and even as their lungs are growing, it's such an age of growth and development. So not only are their brains being affected, but their lungs that are getting larger and maturing, and now they're being full of all these carcinogenic products, and I don't know, we're very worrisome.
Yeah.
So do you think that we need to gear our hackathon towards what can we do for teaching and education, or what we can?
I would think more towards teaching and education, and like educating the population, and especially youth too,
programs.
As that's kind of
youth
what
programs,
that's what e-cigarettes are kind of being geared towards, and like they're targeting the youth.
Right.
And so I think that would be helpful to kind of address the education for not just like the adult population, but also like the youth who are being affected by this as well, and kind of talk about that and hack at that and find a way to kind of break into that.
Well, and ways that maybe we can incorporate, even just incorporate them into existing programs, like existing DARE programs.
Right. That's a great idea.
Let's see, what's the one? What is it called? Red Ribbon Week, where they do all the focusing on,
Say no to drugs.
Exactly, drugs, alcohol, all those things that. So I think we could definitely incorporate that into existing programs, and it's not like you're creating a whole new program or a whole new anything, but if there was enough information. And then also, there's a lot of anti-tobacco campaign stuff that goes on. I mean, my kids are big into YouTube, and having ads like that cycle through to that target market, I think would be a good idea. So maybe we could come up with something like that for our hackathon.
I think that's a great idea, and even going with that, I think about even when I was growing up, you see advertisements and stuff about anti-smoking, and you see black lungs, and you see all these diseases, and it really puts, or the yellow teeth, you see all these negative images almost of smoking. And I think right now we don't have very many negative images to even educate these people, and I think getting that out there, because right now it's it's almost so appealing to them. The
Yeah.
cool smoke and everything, and
Yeah.
it doesn't. It tastes good, and it doesn't.
Exactly.
You know, but to show maybe more of these statistics, and to show perhaps, I don't even know if we've developed images yet of what
Right.
lungs are looking like because it's so new. But
Right.
perhaps just beginning to get that out there, that there are all these negative effects, because right now it just seems so appealing and cool, and
Yeah.
no one can smell it, and
positive
it's not going to do
alternative.
this to my teeth, even though maybe down the road we'll find out it does.
Right, exactly.
But-
the thing is, we just don't know all the long-term effects.
Yeah.
We don't have people that have been doing it for decades, and
Right.
but
The research isn't in.
exactly. So I agree with that. All right, do we feel like
Yeah.
we have our topic?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's good.
Good place to
Okay.
kind
Yeah.
of conclude.